Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yelena, and I'm one of the teaching assistant in data analytics program. So today, I'm gonna show you how to load Twitter data into Watson Analytics, and we're going to discuss what insights can be gained from the Twitter data, and I'm gonna show you how to create a storybook and how to use a storybook, and then I'm gonna show you where you may find the sample storybooks at Analytics Exchange site, and then I'm going to show you how to share files with your team, because your next assignment will be the group assignment, right? So um, I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about, but as you may recall, when you click on new data, you have an option to load data from Twitter. So that's what we're gonna do now. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Share my screen, right? Here we go. So here it is. Now, remember this? We have three tiles, right? Data, discover, and display. We are going exactly through the same process today, except we are going to load the data from Twitter, the social media. So, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna hit new data, and I notice that I'm in my personal area, right? Personal. I'm in the data, and I'm gonna hit new data. And now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select Twitter, right? There we go. So now what I need to do is I need to enter the hashtag. Hashtag basically is my search criteria, and I can enter up to 10, and they have to be separated by spaces. So I have to put hash and how many of you like Oreo. So that's what we're gonna do about today, right? That's a cookie. Now, if I was going to specify an additional hashtag, right? Like, for example, I could put ice cream. Then you have an option. If you want your search result to include any of the specified hashtags, or it can include all of them, right? I can specify up to 10, and I can separate it by the space. Now here I have an option. I can only choose my tweets in English, or I can just keep all languages. It's up to me. Now here it's showing me the date range, the start date and the end date. So usually by default it's doing 1 week. It's just the default. But you can always override it, right? When you click on the arrow, it opens up the calendar, and you can always change. But for right now, let's keep as is. And here is the data asset name. So basically what it is that when I import the data, it's going to be the name of my data set. By default, it enters, it populates it for me, and it's the same as my hashtag, but I can change it. So whenever you're doing this, keep in mind that you can have only one file with the same name, right? So if you already did another search with this criteria, you may have to rename it. Right? Now, before I actually load anything, this is what I like to do. I like to check my estimates, which is good to 127. If I only had 7 tweets, I would have to go here and adjust my date, right? On the other hand, if I had 227,000, I would also have to adjust my date. I would probably pick the smaller date range, right? I would probably try this. But instead, if I had only 5 tweets, I would probably try this, right? Show estimates. So here is how you can narrow or broaden the search criteria. And this is an approximate of file size, and here is the number of tweets available. Now what we can do is we can hit import. Right? You don't want it to be too few tweets, and you don't want it to be too many. Now you see it says it's processing. So what it's doing is that it's loading the data, and at the same time it's trying to find the relationships between variables. I'm going to show you what the variables are. But when it's done processing, it's also going to show you the data quality score, and the icon is going to look like a little, it's going to have a Twitter logo on it, like this. It's going to look like this, with a Twitter logo. Now, when you do the search, it's basically searching 10% of the tweets secretly. It's searching 10%. Here is my quality. It's about 59%. Now, when I click on ellipsis, here it's going to open up the menu. And if you notice that it happened during one of the recent maintenance windows, they used to have deleted the tab here. Now it's refined, which is more convenient because you don't want to be selecting delete by accident. So now let me go in and click refine, and let's see what data we've collected. And notice the similarity. The first row is the field names, right? So here is going to be the date, the year, the month, and the day, and the hour when the tweet was posted. Here is the author country. Then we've got the state, and we've got the city, right? I'm going to do something with these three fields shortly. Now we have a sentiment, and a sentiment can be neutral, positive, right, and negative. There are several values, and to see them, I can just click here. Here it is: ambivalent, negative, neutral, positive, and unknown. What I could do is I could keep them all, or similar to what you have been doing so far, you may filter your data, right? You can specify the criteria and filter the data. That's not what I want to do, but in general, I'm just showing you what can be done. And similarly, you can create the calculations, you can view the properties, you can define the data groups, and you can do the hierarchy, right? So basically, almost the same operations, almost the same filters that you have been doing, you can do it here as well. And now here, basically, it lists you the hashtags, and here the tweet type. So if it's a post or if it's a share, then we've got the author's gender, author's name, and the language. Now I wanted to point out something. The missing values. Here, if you look at the author gender, unknown is basically similar to missing values, but it's not blank, it's just written as unknown. Unknown is, so to speak, is a special value that represents missing, right? So something to note. This is what I'm going to do now, and it's going to make sense when we get to visualization. I'm going to create another field, and I'm going to call it hierarchy. It's going to be the hierarchy. I'm going to call it location. And what I want to do is I want to create a hierarchy where I have my country, and then I want to have a state within the country and a city within the state. And you will see I'm going to do something interesting with it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm opening up the menu, right? Then I'm going to click on a hierarchy. Or actually, there is a better way to do it. Let me show you a better way to do it. I can click on the author country, and I can click on the triple dots, and I can click on a hierarchy here, right? So that way, I already have my first level, right? And I'm going to enter the name, location, right? So I entered the new field name, location, and my first level is the author country. Now I want to add one more level, and I want to add the state, right? Author state, and I want to add the city, right? And I'll show you what I'm doing. So basically, I'm creating a hierarchy on location. So now I'm gonna hit done. And what it did here is that it created another column. It created another variable called location, right? It's another variable. It's very hard to see because of the unknown data. But what it did was the field is going to track the state within the country and the city within the state, right? So let's go ahead and save this. Let's save this. What you could also do is you could see the data quality for every field in this data set, right? And you could also do data groups, and you could rename the fields, and you can change the default aggregation on the fields, like for example the author's friend, if you want to take the average, or if you want to take the sum, right? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go to my landing page, and I'm going to click on the audio right now. But at this time, I'm not going to open the data set. Instead, I want to do the discoveries. And notice that one of my starting points is author by author country, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to count the number of tweets per country. But I'm going to show you something else what I'll do with this. I'm clicking on it. It's going to do the visualization. It's going to do the map, right? But what I'm going to do right now, watch. United States, right? I click on the United States. And when I click on it, it's going to come up. Oh, you want to make sure that you see this like a little hand when you click. And now, when I click on it, look at this. See this triple dots? I click on this triple dots. What is this? Go up, go down. This is my hierarchy. I click on go down, and now I can see my data by state. See this? I drill down, and now I can see by state. And the color code represents the number of authors, right? So the darker the color, the more authors I have. So now you can see that most of the people who talk about this cookie are from Texas. We can drill down further, because if I click on the Texas, and I click on the ellipsis, and I can go down, and it's gonna show me by city. So you can see that the Houston is the area where people talk about this cookie the most. What I could also do, now let me go back. I'm gonna click here. Oops. You can go back up the hierarchy. Basically, you have to click on it and see this. You want to make sure you have this ellipsis. Now I'm gonna go back up, right? And I can add another dimension here. I can add the bubbles. Like for example, I can do, let me pick something else. I can do I can do the number of friends that the author has, for example, or I can do retweets. Let's do retweets. I can drag it here. So now what I did was it's showing the circle, right? And the circle color is based on the retweet count. See this? The darker the circle, the more people respond to the tweets. Now, another thing that, do you remember earlier I mentioned the aggregation method? So basically, when you click on this field, like for example, author friends counts, right? If I click here, go to the properties, you see that? And if I do the aggregation to this one, it gives me the average. That gives me the average number of friends. I can also change it to do the total. I can change it to the sum if I want to, right? So here, in this case, it's the average number of friends that people who posted the tweet have, so to speak. Now, what I could also do is I have another dimension here, because I can control the size of a circle, right? So I have not used the friends counts So I can do it here, right? So here I have what? I have the author friends count. The larger the circle, the more friends the author has. And I can do the retweets, right? See, I have a retweets count, which is the color, right? So here, basically, I have several dimensions. I have the location, I have the number of posts, and so on, right? And I can even do more. I can do a separate map for sentiment type, right? I can do that too if I wanted to, because it's a multiplier. So I could do a lot of interesting visualizations here, right? Or I can even do the author's gender. That's a gender, so I'm gonna have a separate map per gender. Isn't it nice? So now, as you can see, does the gender matter? Well, you tell me. Well, basically the gender is unknown, right? Most of the tweeters, we don't know their gender. Here, looks like we have more females in Texas than males who like this cookie. And so on. Now I can go ahead and I can, let's delete this, remove. And now we're going to save our workbook. And I wanted to show you, have you noticed there used to be a little exclamation point in there? We saw the exclamation point because it indicates that your data has missing values. That you're using the field that has missing values indicated by unknown in this case. Somehow Watson Analytics picks it up. So now let me go ahead and save it, but I'm going to save it as Oreo Discovery, right? I save it, and I'm going to put it in my personal folder. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to name it as, let's say, locations, right? Now I'm going to do another visualization, and you're going to like it. It's a time series. So basically here I'm doing the number of tweets for location. I can also do how the number of tweets change over time, can't I? So now I'm going to click on the plus sign to add another tab, and here I can do, let's do this one. What is a trend in the retweet count per hour, right? So that's a trend analysis, and that's going to do the plot for you, right? So here you can see that over here it tells you which time of a day people are more likely to discuss the topic. And this is a military time, if you notice that. So 14 in the military time is 2 p.m. So for some reason people discuss this topic at around 2 p.m. usually, right? And you can even drill down. Let's see what it lets you do. Oh, here it's only group up, so that's not going to be interesting. That's not going to be interesting. So if I don't like what I just did, I can always undo, right? So here, retweet, average retweet, and it goes by the time of the day. So let me save it, and I'm going to do this rename, and I'm going to say daily activity, right? Let's just save it this, like this. So we know at what time of the day people are more likely to talk about this topic. Let's continue. Now we can do something interesting. We can do, let me type this polarity. Oops, let me type the sentiment. Right? Let me see something about sentiment. What can I do about this? Here is our decision tree. So let's see what drives the sentiment. What are the drivers? Which factors affect if my post about the topic is going to be positive or negative, right? So what it's doing, it's going to compute the decision rules And remember, this is a categorical variable, right? Because the values right here, the values are discrete, right? Ambivalent, negative, neutral, positive, and unknown, right? So while it's still computing, I need to remind you that you can also look at the analysis part, and this part is it's gonna show you which variable was used to build the tree, and also the confusion matrix. This is really interesting because we have more than one class. Earlier, when we discussed this, the variable had only two classes, right? When we did the student at risk of academic failure in the last class, right? We only had two classes. Here we have more. So basically, the way you would do this, the classification accuracy, you're going to take the numbers on the matrix diagonal, you're going to take the sum, and you're going to divide it by the total. You're going to divide it by the sum of all numbers in the matrix. Because take a look at this. Here is the number of tweets that are actually ambivalent and were predicted as ambivalent. Now you have the negative, predicted negative, neutral, predicted neutral, right? And then you have the positive, predicted positive, and so on, right? So basically, you look at the numbers on the diagonal because that's where the actual polarity matches the predicted polarity. That's how you read the confusion matrix. And also it's going to show you which variables were used to build the models, which variable went, right? So now let me close this out and let's take a look at this. Here, it's given me the rules, right? So basically, if my language is English, and if the retweet count of the tweet is less than or equal to 3, so this is more neutral, right? Because we're looking at the color code, right? The yellow color code corresponds to neutral. The brown color code is positive, right? But why does it show me 4% ambivalent? It's because from the drop down I selected ambivalent. I can change this. I can look at which rules drive the negative, right? Negative. So if my language is English, right? If the language of the tweet is English, rather, and if the post got less than or equal to 3 responses, more likely the message is neutral, right? Yeah. It's more likely it's neutral. See this? Because take a look at it. Even though negative is 8%, right? Neutral is still dominant. So most of the, I would say most of the messages are either unknown or positive or neutral. There are not that many negative posts about this cookie, right? And here again, I can toggle. I can show, instead of showing the dominant polarity, I can break it down by color code. So see this? I can explicitly see, for instance, if the language is German, Spanish, and French, more likely the message is neutral. And here is the number of messages to which this rule applies, right? Now what I could also do is I can also check positive, right? So see this, most of the posts happen to be either positive or neutral or unknown. So now what we can do is we can switch to the tree, and here is a tree. So, well, apparently for some reason, language is a factor. And just for some reason, it's using language as a force split. But here is a part that's interesting. If the language is Russian, which is my native language, apparently it's unknown, right? Because do you remember the color? It's unknown. Maybe it's unable to interpret it. Well, now here, if the language is English, right, then we're looking at the number of retweets, the number of responses, and if it's less than or equal to 3, then again, more likely it's more likely it's going to be neutral still, right? So does this really help? Well, not that much, right? So here you can see that here it's mostly positive, right? The dominant is positive. Well, I would say most of the posts on this topic are either positive or neutral. But apparently language and the number of retweets are the most significant drivers, right? Because that's what you're looking at a splitting variable. Now what I could also do is I could eliminate the language, right? I could do it, probably if I were to do it, I would do it either at the data tray position or at the dataset. It depends if I want to exclude it for all analysis or if I just wanted to exclude for this specific one. But instead, let's just go ahead and rename it. And I'm going to save it as polarity model. There we go. What else you could do is you can do the grid charts, right? You can do the summary table, so to speak. Some people call it a grid, some people call it crosstab, some people call it a summary. Now, take a look at this. If you scroll down, see this table summary, I can just click here. And add my variables manually, just by doing a drag and drop, right? So what I want to do is, perhaps, I want to do the author's country, and then I want to do the sentiment, right? I want to do that. And then in here, I just want to count the number of posts. So let me see. It should be something like the author's count. Well, I'll find it, but it should be something like author. Yeah. So basically, what it's gonna do is it's gonna do the level cross tabulation, where each cell is gonna give me the number of counts per settlement per author's country. So that's another way for me to see. It's another way for me to see which country people are more likely to like the cookie, right? Okay, we can do this one also to it count. So that's gonna be the summary. See that? Well, for some reason, this is what I don't like. For some reason, it's showing me the decimal point. It's because it's doing the average. That's why. So what I had to do is I had to click on this field right here. I have to click on this field, click on the ellipsis, and I'm gonna go to properties, and I want to change the average to total, right? To count. Let's change it to count. It's because I don't want to look at I don't want to check on average how many authors post I'm not interested in an average number of posts in this case. I want to see the total number of posts, right? Oops. Is it what I want to do? Well, alright, it's not actually what I want to do, but let's just keep it this way. But this is not really what I wanted to do. But, well, if you look at it, well, let's just leave it this way, let's rename it as a summary table. Summary table. Well, I did not get the expected result, but I'm gonna keep it as is. But in general, you got an idea of this chart. What I could do here is that I can do, it's a cross tabulation. I can put one variable as a row and another variable as a column. And the column and row intersection are just gonna give me the counts. So that's one way to visualize my data. And as you can see, the Canada is more likely you have a neutral. Yeah. And basically, in some of the countries, Bolivia, for instance, just the positive, and I don't see that many negative. Oh, I see. I got it. I have to scroll. That's why. I was wondering why my numbers are too low. It's because, see the scroll bar, I had to scroll. So, most of the posts, most of the tweets are in the United States, right? I would say most of the people who talk about this cookie live in the United States. And see that there are some negative posts, but vast majority of posts are neutral. So this is basically another way for you to visualize. And so now we have 4 different visualizations. And what I'll do right now, I'm going to save this. I'll save it. And do you remember our workflow? So first step, we collected the data. The second step, we build our model. And now we're going to do the third step. First, we are going to create the displays, right? First is we are going to create the displays. Then we are going to use our displays to create a storybook. So storybook is a collection of displays, right? But first, I'm going to hit a new display. And I'm going to name it as Oreo display. Right? And again, I need to be saving the work into my personal area, right? And I'm going to select dashboard, and I'm going to hit create. Now here, I'm going to do just one. And I'll show you what I want to do now. Is I'm going to go to personal, and see this is what I just did, Oreo discovery, and I want to select my map right here. I'm gonna drag and drop, right? And I'm going to name this as map, rename, map, right? I'm just making it up, and I'm going to save this, right? Save. And it's going to be in my personal area, and I'm saving it, right? All right, now, why do I see this exclamation point? Well, it's because I have unknown data, right? It's because I'm utilizing the hierarchy column, right? Do you remember it? I created the location, which is my hierarchy, and some levels in the hierarchy have unknown. That's why. And remember, I could add filters. I could add filter at this specific visualization area, this specific visualization, sorry. And I can add the filter that applies to the whole tab. Right, this tab, if I had more than one visualization, I could create a single filter and apply to all visualizations. Or if I had more than one tabs, then I could apply the filter to all tabs, right? So for this specific display, let's add one more tab and a single. And I'll show you why I'm doing it. So now I'm gonna do, let's do this, like this right here, right? And I'm gonna call it table. I'm just gonna call it table. Now something to keep in mind here, the number of tabs you have here in a display will affect the number of tabs that you see in a single thumbnail of the storybook. And I will show you, we're gonna get there, but first let's save the work. Always save the work, right? So this is my first display. I'm going to create another display, right? Well, in order to create the storybook, I need to have at least one display, but I'm going to create 2, just to make it more interesting. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to navigate to the landing page, and I'm going to hit new display again, and I'm going to call it Oreo 2, Oreo display 2, right? I cannot use the same name, right? We cannot have two displays with the same name. Well, unless it's owned by another user. I'm gonna hit create. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select the single page. Now what I'll do, I'll go to personal, right? And I'm gonna go back to my Aria discovery. And this time I want to put this activity by day. And I'm going to rename it as daily activity. I'm gonna rename it as daily activity. Right? I just named it like this. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'm gonna save it. So basically, I have two dashboards. Right? I have two dashboards. Next step is to create a storybook, right? So I want something that I can present to my manager, something that they can navigate through, and I want to add my comments to it, right? So I'm going to go back to the landing page, and now pay attention what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna hit New Display, and I'm going to select Expert Storybook, right? And some of you may have noticed that this is an add-on. This is not covered in Watson Analytics Introductory course because this is an add-on. Now, I have to name my storybook, right? So let's go ahead and name it as Audio Storybook. Right? Now let me hit create. Alright, take a look at it. Here is the storybook name. Here I can add a brief description. Right? And you can do it, there is a character limit, so something to keep in mind. What I could also do is I could change the background, right? So that's gonna show the nice little picture here. Alright, so next thing what I could do is, now remember that you want to save it. This is how you save it, right? You click here to save. So while it's saving, let me explain. Here, you want to drag and drop the first display, right? The first canvas, you want to drag and drop the first display. But this is very important. You want to plan ahead in which order you want to put your display, because the display that I put here is going to be the first thing that my end user will see when they open the storybook in a view mode, right? When my customer is going to view the storybook, this is going to be the first, you can call it a slide, the first page that they're going to see. So what we need to do is we need to find what we just did. We did this display, and what I'll do, take a look. I'm drag and drop, right? I drag and drop. What I also could do is I could add a thumbnail, right? So let me click here, tap to add a thumbnail, and I can just pick. Since I remember that my display looks like a map, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick map and hit choose, right? So now what I could do is, let me add another one. And this is the one I did, and I'm going to drag and drop right here. Oops. There we go. And I'm gonna click here to add a thumbnail. And as you may remember that I was showing the time series, right? So that looks close, right? So I'm gonna pick this. There we go. And I can keep on going if I have more visualizations, but for right now, we're gonna just hit save, right? And I'll show you what I mean. So right now we are in the edit mode, right? We are in the edit mode. And here, as you notice that here you see the displays that are available for you. That means that the display can be in your personal area or it can be in a shared area. So this is one reason I don't want anything to be saved in the root of the shared folder. It's because when the time comes to do the storybook, right? You don't want your schoolmates to see your work here and without you realizing, taking it and using and making changes, right? Well, things happen. And notice that here I see everything that I can access. Take a look. Over here it's showing me the name, right, of the display, and here it's showing me the location. So this one, predictive models, this is located in a shared folder, and it's in the fall 2016 data 610 session 1981, and that's group 4, and they had a subfolder called predictive models. So in here I can see it. See, I can see everything that I can access. And of course, since I'm an admin, I can access almost everybody's work, right? So now here, see these glasses? Does it look familiar? I can click on my glasses and I'm going to switch to the preview mode, right? So this is how my dashboard is going to look like when the manager looks at it. Now here, this means that I have two displays. Each display is called the tab finding. Each dashboard that I put here, this is called the tab finding. Data asset is a data set, right, that I use to build the visualizations. So now I'm going to click here. I'll show you something. This is the data. Here is the data that was used to build the visualizations. This is a drop down. You may have more than one data set involved in the storybook, right? It's possible to add displays that utilize different data sets. Okay? Here, it's just showing me which displays, which type findings are utilizing this selected data, right? And if I wanted to, if I had another sample of this data, I could hit replace. I could do that, yeah. And then I would get my warning that if I wanted to change my data, these are the displays, right? These are the top findings that would be affected. I'm not going to do it now, but in general, what I could do is I could replace this data with, perhaps I could do the Twitter search for a different criteria, right? I can go back another month, or I can check what the data looked like 1 year ago, can't I? Yes, I can, but let's do cancel for right now. And you can also click here, and here it's also giving you, oops, let's close this, it's giving you more information too. It's going to give you the source, right? It means that this data was collected via Twitter, and this is the time when the data was collected, and here it's just showing me the top findings that were affected. So now to close this panel, I click on I, and now I can close the data. So now as a manager, I can click here, and this is what I see. This is what basically I see. I see this visualization, and it's also interactive. See this? I can click, and I can click here, and I can drill down, and I can drill up. See, I can go up, and I can see my visualization by country. Do you see this? It's interactive. As a customer, right, I can also see the calendar in more details, and so on, right? I can go down, and let's see, maybe there are states in Canada. In Canada, see this? See? Now, do you remember that I mentioned the number of tabs when we did the dashboard? It's because if my dashboard had 2 tabs, here are the tabs that I'm going to have. So basically, whenever you do the storybook, there is a lot of preparations. You need to plan it, really plan it well. So, for instance, you want to plan what you want to do in the first thumbnail, right? Then you want to decide how many tabs you want, and you want to figure out the order in which you want to put certain components, right? And now, take a look at this. I can click on my arrow, and it's going to take me to my second discovery, which is daily activity, right? I can click here to go back home, and this is something that can keep us going until morning. I can show you something interesting. So here are my top findings, right? I'm a customer. I've got the top findings here. I'm looking for an answer, and I cannot find it. This is what I can do. I can click on Ask Question, right? And when I click on Ask Question, it's going to load the starting points, right? So do you remember it? Earlier, we were looking at the starting points, right? When we looked at the starting points earlier, we clicked on the data set. Right now, I'm doing the same task, but I'm using the storybook. And what I could do is, let me try the sentiment again. And let's see what's gonna happen. And I want to do, okay, I can do the distribution by sentiment. Just showing you the ideas. Oops. So here it is, right? So that's a distribution, and I'm going to save it. I'm gonna do rename, and I'm gonna save it sentiment distribution, right? I'll show you what I'm doing. So this is a sentiment distribution, right? So I'm counting the number of the positive and the number of positives, the number of negatives. Guys, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me? One of you mentioned that you cannot hear me. I hope you still can hear me. So let me know if you don't hear me. Okay? Because as far as I know, I'm not on mute. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So basically here, I'm showing you the distribution, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to save it. Let me hit here, and I'm going to do save as, and I'm going to save it in a personal, and I'm going to save this as a well, I just save it like this, sentiment, yes. I spelled it right. Okay, save. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create another display. Yep, so I'm going to go back to my home page, and I'm going to hit new display, and as I say, I'm going to do one cycle, but this is something that could keep us up until morning. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to name it on, and what did I call it? Well, let's just call this display 3. Right? And I'm going to do the dashboard, and I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to just do one page. Right? Now I'm going to go to personal, and somewhere I saved it, right? Oh, here it is, Oreo sentiment. I think that's what it was. So now what I'll do is I'm going to drag and drop. Right? Ooh. There we go. Come on. I was doing something. Okay. Uh-oh. Anyway. Come on. Oh, I see what's going on. Guys, it's my fault. It's because I have to click on the arrow to expand the tabs. I have to click on the arrow to expand the tab. Okay. So guys, if you ever reproduce the issues that I was just having, it's because you cannot drag and drop the whole workbook. You have to drag and drop the tab. Even if the workbook has only one tab, right? You still have to do that. Now I'm gonna save it. Save it. Okay, save. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back to my storybook. And there is more than one way to go back. Notice that if I click on the arrow here, it's going to list all the files that I currently have open. And here is my storybook. Now I'm back, but I'm in the edit mode, right? I mean, I'm not in the edit mode, I'm in a view mode. What I have to do is I have to click on a pencil to go back to my edit mode. And what I want to do right now is I wanted to add the tab finding that I just created, right? So I'm going to scroll down here, and here it is, and I'm going to put it here, drag and drop. There we go. So, and I can go in and I can add my nice beautiful thumbnail. So it looks more like this, right? Column, and I do choose. So now, what I did was I expanded my tab findings, right? And you could also, if you like, you can add a logo and so on. And you can add more tab findings, you can keep going. But I believe there is a limit. I'm not exactly sure if it's 4 or 5, but there is a limit. Now what else I could do is I could add the annotation. Basically, notice that here, if I click here, it's gonna take me edit explanations and annotation, and I can add something like a tweet by country, right? And I'm gonna hit on add explanation. So basically the whole idea is that when my customer will look at the storybook, they're gonna know what I was trying to show, what was my intention, right? And you could also add the notes to certain points on the visualization. However, I would say be a little bit careful with that, because if you go back and if you reload your data, if you load another sample of your data, the notes that you added may no longer apply. Like, for example, if I put a note in here, such as the state with maximum number of tweets, and if I go in and reload my data, it's highly possible, if I enter the different criteria, right, the different date range, it's highly possible that I could have another state with the maximum number of tweets, right? So we need to be really careful when we add notes to this area. We delete, right? So I'm done with one note. I can click OK, right? So basically this is annotation. Annotation tells your customer what this shows, right? What you're trying to show. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, right? So we went over the storybook. Now I want to show you something very important. How to share the files. You're going to need that for your last assignment. So here, if you notice that you have two areas, personal and shared. Everything that you have in the personal area is visible only to you and the system administrators, users who have admin rights, right? Your classmates cannot see it. So what I did here is that this is for the group project. If you expand the shared, notice you have to expand the shared, you will see another folder for your session. And I'm going to make sure that this is done. Click here. And then later on, when we have the study group assignments, under your folder for your session, you're going to see the folder for your group. So something very important for you to remember is that in the left panel is the folders hierarchy, right? Like, for example, let me look at the one from the last semester. So this is the last semester, and I'm an admin, that's why I can see all. So here is the last semester, and this is the fall 2016, right? And in the fall, we had session 9040, and that session had 6 study groups. So just pretend that you're a group member. Just pretend that I'm taking a class in fall 2016 and that I'm a member of group 1. I'm just going to pretend. So to see my files, I'm going to do from the beginning. To see my files, I have to expand share. And here I will see my folder, right? The folder for my team. And here I see group 1. So this is how you do it. You select it, and this is the files that belong to your group, your data files. Then you click on Discover, it's going to show you discoveries, and here it's going to show you displays, right? So here we're going to make a rule. You're going to be saving the files either to your personal area or to the folder designated to your group. Everything saved to the root of the shared area will be deleted. Everything saved to the root of the shared area will be deleted. And in a slide presentation, I included an example of the file due for deletion, right? So it will go where there is no recycle bin, right? So if that happens, you would need to contact me. You would need to contact me, and look how many students I had to punish last week in the other session for not following instructions. Trust me. So some people were saving files where they were not supposed to, and where did these files go? That's it. They need to claim it, right? So if you save something in the root of the shared area, it will be deleted without notice. We don't know who is the owner of the file, and then when I go in to create my storybook, I can just see it, and I can just say, it has the same name as my work. Let me go ahead, drag and drop, let me modify. And then the actual file owner is going to be, who modified my work, and so on, right? That would be a big mess. Since we have to share this area, we have to share the account with other sessions, right? We need to have some rules, right? So now, what else I wanted to explain to you is that the dependencies. If I created a discovery, right? For instance, I have a discovery called Oreo Sentiment. Oops, I did not want to open it, but let's go back. So here it is. I have this discovery. And this discovery is based on my Twitter data that I just collected, right? So if I go ahead and if I share the discovery with my team, I also have to share the data set that I used to create that discovery. Because my team members will not be able to view the discovery if they don't have access to the data that I used to create it. So there is a dependency between files, right? So how do I share the data? Let me show you something. So I'm going to pretend to be Steve's student in the fall, and I'm going to be the group 1 member. So this is what I would need to do. I would need to click here, and I would need to select move, right? Move. Oops, there we go. I got this error. I did it intentionally. Do you know why I got this error? It's because I have my file still open, right? So you cannot share your file with the team until you close it. And to close the file, it's here. And since I do not see the asterisk next to my file name, it means that the work is saved. I don't have any unsaved changes. Let me click. So now I close the file, and now I can do it, right? I go move, Now, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna select shared. Watch what I'm doing now. I'm gonna expand it. I'm going to find my session, right? And I'm going to find my group. There we go. I selected the group, and I'm gonna hit move. Now, here you want to keep this as is. I want to keep it as is because I want my team members to have the same permissions on this file as the permissions they have on their group folder. Alright? So if you notice that it said known, everyone known, it means that when I create a new user, by default, they're not going to have access to other team folder. This is how I set up, so that when the new users are not going to have access to almost anything. There is one exception, and I'll show you later. So here it is, right? So I'm going to go OK. I hit OK. So now, I'm going to review the steps to see that file. So to see the files in your folder, you're going to select shared, click on the plus to expand the folder. Underneath, you're going to see the folder for your session, right? You click here, right? Now, this is a folder for my group. And here is my file that I just copied. Alright, so now we are done. Now we are done with sharing. Not with the class, not with the WebEx, but with the sharing. What I can do is, I no longer want to share this file. I no longer want to share this file. This is what I need to do. I click on this ellipsis here. I go move. But before I do this, I need to make sure that the file is closed. The file needs to be closed before I do this. Now, out. Let me minimize this. I'm going to go back to my personal folder right here, right? And I'm going to hit move. And I'm going to get a warning. The warning message basically tells me that if there is a discovery, if we have a discovery or display in a shared area that utilizes this data set, my teammates will no longer be able to open it. They won't be able to use any discoveries that were built from this data set because this data is no longer be available for them. Well, I'm going to set OK. Right? So we need to keep in mind the dependencies. Data, right? Discovery depends on the data. Displays depend on the discovery and on the data, right? And the storybook depends on the display, on discoveries, and on data, right? So this is very important when you start sharing files. Just keep in mind, right? So now let me go back to personal. So something else. I want to make sure that you remember something else. Sharing files does not mean that more than one person can modify the same file at the same time. It does not mean this. Only one person can edit the same file at the same time. And just pretend, suppose all of these files are in a shared area. Not just pretend. And I'm just going to go ahead, just an example, I'm going to go ahead and log out. That's it. I walk away, but I leave the files open. Now, my group member, just for the example, let's assume Kate is my group member. Kate goes in and tries to open my file. She tries to open the file in a shared area, and she's going to think, wait a minute, this file is shared. I can open it. I can go ahead and edit it. No way. When she makes change and she's trying to save it, she won't be able to. Why? It's because Yelena still has the file open. It does not matter that Yelena is not logged in at that moment. She still has the file open and Kate cannot edit it. So what Kate can do is she can save the edit with a different name. She can do that. But she cannot overwrite this file while I have it open. But if somehow she If the system let her override the file, then when I open it, it's going to be invalid because I want to be looking at the latest version. So this is one of the most commonly reported issues that I've seen in group work when the group members try to edit the same file at the same time. So what I would recommend is that when you're done for the day, save all your changes, right? If the changes are in a shared area, you want to save it and you want to close it. You want to go and close everything. So that way, your group members can make their own changes, right? So it's something very important to keep in mind, and I double check with IBM to make sure that this is true. Two or more people cannot edit the same file at the same time. So now what else I did not cover? Let me go back to the slides. I want to make sure that I cover the key points. Okay, let me hit. Actually, I have a copy of the slides here. So we covered how to load the Twitter data, right? And I explained that we need to make sure that well, you can have only one file with the same name, right? So in this example, I was searching for the Walmart store. If I already did my search for the Walmart store, and if I have my file called Walmart, I cannot use this name. I would have to choose a different name, like Walmart underscore, and I can put my date perhaps, right? I can put something like 03/20/2017. So we did that part. Here, basically, I'm just showing you the action menu that you can do almost everything that you've done with your other data. You can do refinement, you can delete, but if you delete, it cannot be undone, right? You may share it with a team, or you may use it to build the discovery workbooks. All right. Now, here is basically I'm giving you some metadata, so you can. The data includes the tweets timestamps, such as year, month, day, and the military time. We have the author location, author country, state, city, author name and gender. We have the message hashtag, and we also have information on how the message was posted, right? And we have the number of friends that the author has. Here, I'm basically showing you that for each field, you can see the properties, and you can add the condition, you can check the data quality score, and you can filter. So basically, you can do the same operations that you did before, right? And here, I summarize the step to build the location hierarchy, since a lot of you might consider doing it in your analysis, right? Now I summarized what type of analysis you can do. You can do the tweets by location. You can do the time series, and see, this is a plot that I did not do here. You can do the area plot, right? And you can break it down by polarity. I did not do it today during the demo, but this gives you something that you can do the retweet count by hour, and you can do it different color code. You can use several charts actually. Take a look at this. Different color code is used for the different polarity. You can also do the word clouds, right? And you can do the models, and you can do the summary tables. Now here, I'm showing you the storybook. And yes, I remembered something else that I forgot to show you, and I will. There is a site called Analytics Exchange, and in your classroom, I think you probably have instructions on how to download the sample storybook. That site has sample storybooks that you may look at, and those storybooks will help you get your own ideas. It will help you get an ideas for your own storybooks that you create for assignment. And this is how you would do it. You click here, go to Analytics Exchange, right? And here you can just search it by topic, or you can just pick one of the featured storybooks. But for some reason, I'm gonna I'm gonna click View All, and let's pick IBM Maximo. And by the way, there is a YouTube video about this storybook, IBM Maximo Asset Management. So now here, and I'm going to click Import. And also take a look at it. It says free, right? Pay attention. Most of the sample storybooks are free, but you still want to make sure. So let's go ahead and hit Import. And I'm gonna hit Import. Now what it's going to do is it will import the storybook, but also it will import the displays and the data set that was used to create this storybook, right? So now it's loading, but remember, while it's loading, you don't have the browser back button, right? It's helpful to remind. While it's loading, I can show you I can continue with the slides. So here is how you create an expert storybook, right? You select expert storybook and you hit create. And here, it's basically, I'm showing you the storybook in the edit mode. And here is the storybook name, right? And you can toggle between view and edit mode. And this is how you add. You have to drag and drop the display. Here allows you can show and hide the displays panel, right? Here I'm just showing you how to add the annotation, right? You're gonna click on this icon and then you're gonna be taken to the explanation panel, and you just click on add new and you type your explanation, right? Then click on add and click OK. Right? So this is how you would do it, and I showed you one, right? I think I added one. Let's go back and check. This is done. Import complete. I'm gonna click close. Now, as you notice that it's something similar to what we created earlier, but it looks a little bit more professional, I would say. So here is the storybook name. Here is a description. And here are my top findings, right? Here are the top findings. And I can click here. And I've got a bunch of tabs, and I have a detailed explanation, right? I have a detailed explanation for each tab. And if I had an annotation on the visualization itself, I could toggle between show hide. But since this is grayed out, I don't have any annotations on the visualization itself, so I can keep on going. All right, there we go. Right, then I can navigate to the next page and so on. So now let me go back to home and let me see this. I can also do ask a question, and I can build a new discovery from it. I'm not gonna do that, but I'm just giving you ideas that could keep us up until morning. No, I'm not gonna do that, I promise. Now, what we can do, let me go back. Instead, we're going to go back to the landing page, and let me show you something. If you expand your personal area, you will have a folder called Imported, right? Since this is not my first storybook that I imported, I had this folder already. But you're gonna have one edit. Now when you expand, this, you will see a separate subfolder for each storybook that you imported. And if you click on this subfolder, right, if you click on the subfolder, you're gonna see the dataset. And the reason I see the dataset is because I have my data selected. Right, so this is a dataset that was used to build this specific storybook. Now I can click also, well, for some reason, the discoveries are not included. They may have been prepackaged in displays. Okay, so let's click on a display and see this. It's showing me 4 displays, right? See this, the four displays? Because if I go back in here, every display corresponds to the top finding. See this? I have 4 of this. I have 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. I have 4. And also, if I click here, see this? I can preview my data. And in this drop down, I have 4 displays also. But in general, it is possible to have a display utilizing more than one data set. Alright? So that way, if you want to replace the data, alright, you can check which findings in the storybook utilize that data. Right? Because before you do something, you want to look at the impact. Right? Close this. So I showed you how to use this site, Analytics Exchange. It has sample storybooks, right? I mean, of course, you're not going to submit this for grading. It's not going to count, but this is going to help you to get some ideas on what visualizations are possible, what comments can be added, and so on. It's just giving you ideas. So it's a good idea to look at the samples before you create your own. Right? Now let's go back to the slide. So we went over the annotation, and we went over there is a view mode and edit mode, something similar to the dashboard, right? And here I'm just showing you the data preview, and basically I'm trying to show you that here you see the data set name, right? And that's exactly what you see on the landing page. You see the data set name, and you see the date, last modification date, right? And here I just showing you the affected top findings. So which portions of the storybook use this data, right? Here I'm just showing you the storybook actions menu. You can rename it, you can move it, or you can delete it. But if you delete it, there is no way to undo it, right? There's no way to undo it. And this web page, this is a URL for the Analytics Exchange page where you can just check what's in there. But to import the storybook, you need to be logged in to what's in Analytics, right? In order to import the storybook, right? And you could also import the data, I think, yeah. Now, here I'm summarizing the permissions. I'm summarizing the levels of permissions. Basically, if permission is set to none, it means nobody can see it. View only, it means that you can see the file. And speaking of view only, this is how it's set up, that there is one exception. Whenever your account is created, there is one folder in here that's visible for everybody. It's more sample dataset. More sample dataset folder is visible for everybody. Because I set it up as a view, I gave a view permission to everyone, right? So this is the only folder that I made visible to anyone, right? So this folder, it means view only. So if you notice that, guys, well, it doesn't apply to administrators, but it applies to students. If you're a student, you can see the contents of this folder. You can open the dataset in refine mode, right? But you cannot edit it. You cannot delete it, right? You cannot like, see this, if I click on ellipsis, I see refine, replace, rename. It's because I'm an admin. You're only gonna see refine, okay? And this folder is set up to view for everybody, and administrators get full access to it. right? So basically, what you'll see in the shared area is a folder with your sample data set and the folder for your group, right? And the only location where you'll be saving files is your personal area and the folder designated for your group when the groups get created. And the groups will be created when they are created in Leo. I'm going to match it. I'm going to match the group membership. I'll take care of it. So whenever you are informed that the groups are ready, and if you don't see your group, right? Whenever the groups are ready, if you don't see it, you let me know. I'll take care of it. I'm usually quick. It's usually easy for me to fix. Usually it's easy. So here I'm basically just summarizing it, right? Here, this is just to remind you how you access your group folder, right? So you're gonna have the slides, and you're gonna have a copy of the recording if you need to review. And here are the steps to share the file with the team. And here I'm just pretending to be a member of the first group in the session 9040 in the fall. Here I'm basically showing what you will see in your personal, no, I'm sorry, in your group folder, right? You're gonna see group one, so that's a location of the file, and you're gonna see the file name, and you're gonna see the data quality score, and so on, right? Here I'm showing you how to unshare, right? Unsharing the file. And remember, you're gonna get a warning, which is expected, and this warning tells you that your teammates will no longer be able to see the files, right? So which is what expected. They won't be able to see this file, and they won't be able to see the files that depend on it, right? Here is a reminder. This is an example of the file that will be deleted. See the problem? It saved at the root of the shared area, right? And I put a red X in there. So if that happens, right? And if that happens in error, you're gonna contact me, right? In theory, once you delete something, it's gone forever. But sometimes I'm nice. I'm doing you a favor by creating the trash can folder. Alright? Everything will go to my trash can folder. And you're gonna need to claim it. And when you claim it, you're gonna tell me the file name. You're gonna tell me the date when you saved it. Right? And the file briefly describes the file content, and then I'm going to check if that file was saved in the wrong area. Right? So just keep this in mind where it will end up. So now, this is a little troubleshooting thing. So this is an error message that you'll get, and I believe I may have. Oh, I did not reproduce this error. There we go. Let me explain it to you. So what I did was, me and Kate, we are group members, right? We were sharing the discovery in a data file. Now what I did was I removed the data file from the shared area. I removed the data file, but I kept the discovery. When Kate is trying to open the discovery, she will receive this error message. It's because Elena removed the data that she used to build the model, right? So this is an error message. If you see this error message, remember that you've seen it during the walkthrough, right? So here I just put a little diagram of the dependencies for you. So you have the first data set, and you can create more than one discovery. Then you use the display, right? You put the discoveries on display. Then you have another data set. You created two more discoveries. You created second display, and you put it together in a storybook. So this is basically a workflow. So if I remove anything along the chain, that's it. The storybook becomes invalid, right? So that's another reason you want to pay attention to where you're saving your files. Because if Elena deletes something that was saved in the wrong location, it's a big punishment, right? Alright, and here what I did was I put some useful resources for you, some documentations and some videos. And one of the documentation that I really like is the structure of the Twitter data assets. It goes over the fields that get returned in more details. And this is a Storybook resources. So you may consider just watching these videos and checking the documentation. And now it's time for questions and answers. Questions. I like questions, huh? Do we have questions? This is a good time to ask questions. So let me see if there is anything in the chat. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. Questions? All right, thank you, Greg. Sure, thank you, guys. So, any questions? Steve, do you have anything to add to what I just said?
No, I think this was excellent. It's extremely informative. Just a great job, Elena, as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording, and we'll certainly have this posted in the classrooms.
And I'll send you the slides.
Thanks.
Mm.